Welcome to the lecture, and in the previous one we saw about what is ORDS and we understood what's happening between the HTTP client and the Oracle database as a visual representation. So we need to get in detail what's happening inside that mid-tier one. So that's for this here. So inside the ORDS we will be enabling the schema first using the Oracle Apex, which we saw earlier, and even it can be enabled through other ways through PL/SQL APIs. So once you enable it, you will get access to various layers inside that. So starting from that, it's the modules, the first one. So ORDS can have any number of modules. Modules are nothing just to differentiate, like a categorizing one, and you want to differentiate between some employees table or even a departments table. For an example, you can define two modules. So this is how it's done with respect to a table or differentiation. That's like a module. So this is module, and inside the URL, for you can understand, that's the root URL first and followed by one hierarchy, that is the module, the first one. So this module comes here, and the next following that hierarchy comes its next subdivision, which is templates. Templates is just a group of templates can form a module. So it's just another one categorization inside the table itself. For example, inside the module of the employees, so it can have like a further structures like an employee ID or with an employee name, or with various kinds of, with respect to other parameters as well. So this is a template, just a next layer of a module. So this has the another URL that comes as the endpoint after the module, and then following that you would be having other things, but mostly the template is the last one for the certain request. So following that we have the handlers. So a template completes the URL, and if you want to differentiate that URL, it can be like a different request, right? So a URL can be a post request or even a get request. The same URL can be anything. So to differentiate that, we need to handle that. So that comes the definition of handlers. So you can define an handler as a get request or a post request. So that's how it's happening. So next you have the parameters. That's the next layer, and that differentiates how you want to define the parameter for each variable. URL can have a binding variable, right, and like a query, and you want to differentiate and map it to the SQL statement. So in the handler, we'll writing the SQL statement, and the parameters we need to define what it goes. So that's where you'll be coming to know in the later part. So this how parameters can be anything. It can be with respect to a post request, you can define the body parameters, or with respect to any headers or anything. So this is how the parameters is, and it follows the same REST principles in the ORDS. So that's why it's called Oracle REST Data Services. So that's the ORDS. It follows the REST principles, and following that we'll be going through various in detail about each modules and templates and various things in the form of Oracle Apex and even in the PL/SQL APIs. So for that we'll see in the further lectures.